All right, Shalom to the elect. I want to start by giving all the praises, honor, and glory to whom it rightfully belongs, which is Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Rakakwadash. And what I said was all the praises, honor, and glory belongs to Yahweh in the name of Yahweh Shai, in the name of the Holy Spirit. Our double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone that rule well, peace, blessings, and salutations to the elect. All right, now this lesson, okay. I should have this tab up. Is going into the feast of dedication, which is the upcoming High Holy Day. All right, and I just want to go into the story of it again, and Lord willing, I'll do it two parts. Just going into the first four chapters of First Maccabees. All right, that's where you find the history at. Okay, um, and as you can see, all right, here, all right, this is
Old Spice Gentleman Super Hydration Body Wash. Vanilla and shea. 24/7 moisture.
all right. So Hanukkah, which is our one of our high holy days, starts on November 24th at sundown to December 2nd at sundown. All right, that's when it begins at sundown. Is when it ends, December 2nd on sundown. All right, today's Saturday. We're starting this lesson, and you know, tomorrow Sunday at sundown is when it'll begin. Okay, so I just want once again I'm gonna do this lesson, Lord willing, in two parts. Each part will cover two chapters. Okay, so just going through the history of it, get some edification. Lord willing, us edifying. But Hanukkah here, as you see, all right. Now it says, I'm just gonna read this top paragraph. All right, it says Hanukkah in the Hebrew. It's either Hanukkah or Chanak. I believe it's Chanak. It says it's a Jewish festival, and they say Jewish. And when people normally think about Hanukkah, they think about the fake Jews. But we understand that they're not the real people, and we are. And it's one of our high holy days, right? It says it's a Jewish festival commemorating the recovery of Jerusalem and subsequent rededication of the Second Temple at the beginning of the Maccabean revolt against the Seleucid Empire in the 2nd century BCE. Okay. Um, Slovakia. All right. So it's going into that. All right. You know what? Let me just see something real quick. Background. See if it just looking at something real quick. They said this is a model of Jerusalem during the Second Temple period. All right. But going back. All right. It's lucky. I'm just looking at it. All right. So I just want to go into just a little bit of history on it. Okay. And so once again, I'm gonna start with the first two chapters of First Maccabees in this part, and Lord willing, I'll end it with the second or the next two chapters after the first two. All right. So right here. So before I get into reading, right, first you gotta understand that this goes to show that the Apocrypha is a part of the Bible, because in the book of John, chapter 10, right? Because you tell these Christians that that the Apocrypha is a part of the Bible and they don't believe you. Okay. However, they can't explain this. This is St. John chapter 10, verse 22. And it was at Jerusalem the feast of the dedication, and it was winter. And Yahweh Shai walked in the temple in Solomon's porch. So Yahweh Shai was around when they had the feast of dedication. Now, you look up this word dedication here, okay? Strong's G 1456. All right. And it says in Kaina. And it says here dedication, consecration. In particular, the annual feast celebrated 8 days, beginning in the 25th of Chislev, middle of our December, instituted by Judas Maccabees. See, instituted by Judas Maccabees, it's 164 BC, in memory of the cleansing of the temple from the pollution of Antiochus Epiphanes. Okay, so and where do you find the account of Judas Maccabees? You find it in the you find it in the Apocrypha. Okay, specifically the book of First Maccabees. Slovakia. All right. Let me see what comes up if I click this. All right. You know, so this goes to show that the Apocrypha is a part of the Bible. All right. Now I'm going to read here, and you got to understand something, and Lord willing, right? Because up here, remember at the top, it says, I'm going to read it again. Hanukkah is a Jewish festival commemorating the recovery of Jerusalem and the subsequent rededication of the Second Temple at the beginning of the Maccabean revolt. Here's the point: against the Seleucid Empire in the 2nd century BCE. And so we're going to come back to that, Lord willing. And want to get something to Daniel's. And by the way, once again, this word Hanukkah, okay, just to get the word dedication. All right, I believe it's Kanak, okay, but in here, see here, Strong's 82598 says here it says Hanukkah. All right, and it says dedication, consecration, but you go to the root word, it's Kanak, Kanak. All right, Kanak. See, and it says to train, dedicate, and all these. So you know, to pretty much it's either this word or the other one, but I'm pretty sure it's this word. All right, just showing that word. So now moving on, right? So First Maccabees chapter 1, starting at verse 1. Now it says here, and it happened after that Alexander, son of Philip the Macedonian, who came out of the land of Chedum, had smitten Darius, king of the Persians and Medes, that he reigned in his stead the first over Greece. Now, this Alexander is talking about Alexander the Great, right? Which we call Alexander the Great. Okay, it says Alexander the Third of Macedon, most commonly known as Alexander the Great, was a king of the ancient Greek kingdom of Macedon. Okay, so he it says so it was a part of prophecy that he would come against the Medo-Persian Empire, and see the Lord has showed the prophet Daniel, about these empires that would, these major empires on the earth that would rise and fall before Yahweh Shah came back, right? See, so Daniel 7, and this once again tracks all of that. It tracks the major empires. Daniel 7, and starting at verse 1. In the first year of Belshazzar, king of Babylon, Daniel had a dream and visions of his head upon his bed. Then he wrote the dream and told us some of the matters. Daniel spake and said, I saw in my vision by night, and behold, the four winds of the heavens drove upon the great sea. And four great beasts came up from the sea, diverse one from another. All right. So then it gives you the beasts, goes to the Syrian, the Babylonian. Then here in verse 5, right, it says, and behold, another beast, a second, like to a bear. All right. And it's talking about the Medo-Persian Empire. All right. And it says, and it raised up itself on one side. All right. Meaning, though the Medes came first, the Persians became more exalted or higher. It says, and it had three ribs in the mouth of it, which represents the three empires that conquered all right, as well as the directions they conquered towards, which the three empires they conquered were Babylonia, Lydia, and Egypt. Okay, it says, and it had three ribs in the mouth of it, between the teeth of it, and they said thus unto it, arise, devour much flesh. Okay, then verse 6 says, after this I beheld, and lo, another, like a leopard, which is the Greek empire, which had upon the back of it. So, it's saying this empire here, and then this one. All right, says like a leopard, which had upon the back of it four wings of a fowl. The beast had also four heads, and dominion was given unto it. Okay, and so after this empire came in the power, this one will come, the Greek empire. And the thing is, it talks more about it in Daniel 8, real quick, because you gotta understand this. That this is the Medo-Persian Empire and the Greek Empire. All right, this is it's in the it's talked about in the Old Testament as well. The prophet Daniel had spoke about these different empires coming into power, and that's why you see right here, it talks about Alexander taking down the Medo-Persians, okay, and then him reigning. You see, so the Lord already showed the prophets these things happening, okay, and then you read after the Greek Empire came the Roman Empire, all right, which you know, which was around during the time of Yahweh Shai as well. Okay, so I mean, it gives you kind of like contract to a certain extent. Which is the book of Daniel 8, starting in verse 1. In the third year of the reign, there's a precept to what we just read. In the third year of the reign of King Belshazzar, a vision appeared unto me, even unto me Daniel. After that, which appeared unto me at the first. And I saw in a vision, and it came to pass, when I saw that I was at Shushan in the palace, which is in the province of Elam, and I saw in a vision, and I was by the river of Ulai. Verse 3. Then I lifted up mine eyes and saw, and behold, there stood before the river a ram which had two horns. Now, who do you think this ram is talking about that has two horns? All right, it's talking about the Medes and the Persians, the Medo-Persian Empire, right? Because then the two horns were high, but one was higher than the other, and the higher came up last. See, we just read in Daniel 7 how it said that it raised up itself on one side. And here it's saying one of the horns was higher than the other. You know, so this is talking about the so this ram is going into the Medo-Persian Empire. All right, but continuing on, in their empire, the Medo-Persian Empire was a co-regent. You look that term up. All right, this is verse 4. Now it says, I saw the ram pushing westward and northward and southward, so that no beast might stand before him. Neither was there any that could deliver out of his hand. But he did according to his will and became great. All right. So meaning no nation could withstand the power of the Medo-Persian Empire. All right. However, verse 5. And as I was considering, behold, an he-goat came from the west on the face of the whole earth and touched not the ground. And the goat had a notable horn between his eyes. Okay. And so this he-goat, all right, let's just jump down and well, it's just talking about, I'll just say it before I jump down. It's talking about the Greek Empire, okay? And this is a precept that we're reading in the first verse of First Maccabees 1. See? And once again, it happened after that Alexander, son of Philip, the Macedonian, and this is literal. See, how can you say the Bible is fake and it accounts literal history? Alexander the Great. Who was his father? Let me see. Slovakia. Trying to see what talks about his father. Let me see if it's this man. Yep. Philip the second. Yep. See, Philip II of Macedon says was the king of the ancient kingdom of Macedonia. All right. It says from 359 BC until his death in 336 BC, he was a member of the Argead dynasty, founders of the ancient kingdom, and the father of Alexander the Great. So this guy, okay, is Philip of Macedon that we're reading about here in the scripture. After Alexander, son of Philip, the Macedonian. See? So this is it's talking about Philip II. All right. Yeah. But continuing, right? Um so 8 and 5. So reading it again, it says, and as I was considered, behold, and he goat came from the west on the face of the whole earth and touched not the ground. Okay. It says, and the goat had a notable horn between his eyes. Verse 6, and he came to the ram that had two horns, which I had seen standing before the river, and ran unto him in the fury of his power. So he's talking about Alexander the Great coming up against the Medo-Persian Empire to take it down. Verse 7, and I saw him come close unto the ram, and he was, and this all, leads into, the background, a piece of the background of First Maccabees that we're reading about. Verse 7, it says, and I saw him come close unto the ram, and he was moved with choler against him, and smote the ram, and brake his two horns. And there was no power in the ram to stand before him. But he cast him down to the ground, and stamped upon him, and there was none that could deliver the ram out of his hand. Okay? Now, this is so what it's saying here is that Alexander the Great took down the Medo-Persian Empire. All right, and just to prove that this is talking about the ram is talking about the Medo-Persian Empire, and the goat is talking about Alexander the Great. Let's jump down to verse 19. Daniel 8, starting at 20. It says the ram's identity. It says the ram which thou sawest having two horns are the kings of Media and Persia. See, verse 21. So that's who the ram is. The Medo-Persian Empire. Verse 21. And the rough goat is the king of Grecia, and the great horn that is between his eyes is the first king. It's going into Alexander the Great. All right, which brought in the Greek Empire, which was the beginning of the civilization of the so-called white man. Okay, so this, what happened here, after Alexander the Great's death, once again gives the background. This is like, this gives the beginning of the background of, First Maccabees 1. So First Maccabees 1:1. No, I'm gonna go to verse. No, I'll start from verse 1 again. All right. So we understand this now. And it happened after that Alexander, son of Philip the Macedonian, who came out of the land of Chedum, had smitten Darius, king of the Persians and Medes, that he reigned in instead the first over Greece. So we understand the history of it was prophecy that it happened. Alexander the Great took down the Medo-Persian Empire, and therefore the Greek Empire came into rulership. All right. And something else I wanted to say. Slipped my mind. Oh yeah, and it was recorded. The prophet Daniel had wrote the prophecy of that. That the Greek Empire is going to come into power, even with the statue Nebuchadnezzar had seen it, right? But that's from something else, right? So it says, verse 2: it made many wars and won many strongholds and slew the kings of the earth. It went through to the ends of the earth and took spoils of many nations, and so much that the earth was quiet before him, whereupon he was exalted and his heart was lifted up. All right. And this let's give us a background on Alexander the Great, right? Verse 4 says that he gathered a mighty strong host and ruled over countries and nations and kings who became tributaries unto him. So he, was ruling, he was taking down different nations, etc. Right? He's one. People regard him as being a great warrior or leader of the past. All right. However, verse 5, and after these things he fell sick and perceived that he should die. All right. Verse 6, wherefore he called his servants, such as were honorable, and had been brought up with him from his youth, and parted his kingdom among them while he was yet alive. Okay. And and then, so after he died, after Alexander the Great died, all right, he parted his kingdom, all right, among his he had four generals and he parted his kingdom among them. Okay. Now let me just jump here. Death and succession. Alexander the Great. Let me see. Division of the Macedonian Empire. Okay. And before I get that right, let me just continue read verse 7. So Alexander reigned 12 years and then died, and his servants bear rule everyone in his place. Once again, this is recorded in the scriptures. Let's go back to Daniel 7 and come back to Daniel 8. Daniel 7 and 5 and 5 again. No, 6. Say, after this I beheld and lo another, like a leopard, which had upon the back of it 4 wings of a fowl. The beast also had 4 heads. Dominion was given to it. See? 4 heads. Okay? You go find out what these 4 heads are. Daniel 7 and 8. It's like Daniel the 8th chapter and the 22nd verse. It says, now that being broken, talking about Alexander the Great, now that being broken, whereas 4 stood up for it. 4 kingdoms shall stand up out of the nation, but not in this power. All right. So we're gonna see who these 4 is talking about. Okay. 1 second. Um. So Alexander the Great. Okay, and so let's see here. It says Alexander, division of the Macedonian Empire. All right. So matter of fact, let me see if I just could find how much he ruled over. Okay. Uh, okay. So this is the map of Alexander's the Great's empire. All right. This is a map of it. Over here, starting. Follow the line, etc. Bam, 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 bam. All right. I believe here. Here. I don't know the exact path. Okay. I have to look into it, but pretty much, all right. This is this highlighted part that you see is his empire. Okay, what he ruled. So, but his rulership, and you see, even over here, all right. But his rulership got split up after his death. His empire got parted, as we read in the scriptures, right? So now you're gonna see the same area of land, all right, in the picture I'm about to pull up, ruled by 4 different, pretty much 4 different uh rulers, right? So here, let's read this real quick. Alexander's death was so sudden that when reports of his death reached Greece, they were not immediately believed. Alexander had no obvious death. Slaka had no obvious or legitimate heir. His son Alexander the Fourth by Roxanne being born after Alexander's death. According to Diodorus, Alexander's companions asked him on his deathbed to whom he bequeathed, meaning to pass down his kingdom. His laconic reply was toi kratistoi, however you say that, to the strongest. Another theory is that his successors willfully or erroneously transferred Toi the Craterus, the general leading his Macedonian troops home and newly entrusted with the regency of Macedonia. All right. Um, I'm gonna jump down here. All right. So it says, uh, Dissennius, it's like a dissension and rivalry soon affected the Macedonians. The satrapies handed out by Perdiccas of the provinces of Babylon became power bases each general used to bid for power. After the assassination of Perdiccas in 321 BC, Macedonian unity collapsed, and 40 years of war between the successors, Diadochi or Diadochi, ensued before the Hellenistic world settled into three stable power blocks: Ptolemaic Egypt, Seleucid Syria in the east, and Antigonid Macedonia. In the process, Alexander IV and Philip III were murdered. All right. Um, but I want to focus on this term Diadochi, right? Now let's click on that, see what comes up. Diadochi, right? It says the Diadochi were the rival generals, families, and friends of Alexander the Great, who fought for control over his empire after his death in 323 BC. The Wars of the Diadochi. So, see, these are his pretty much his generals. The Wars of the Diadochi marked the beginning of the Hellenistic period in the Mediterranean, from the Mediterranean Sea to the Indus River Valley. The most notable Diadochi include Ptolemy, Antigonus, Cassander, and Seleucus as the last remaining at the end of the war. At the end of the wars of the successors ruling Egypt, Asia Minor, Macedonia, and Persia, respectively, all forging dynasties lasting several centuries. Okay, so as we saw, right now, let me try to pull it up again. All right, pull up a map, the map of Alexander the Great's empire. Right, so this is once again the map, right? As we saw before, so his empire is about to get split up, as we see in this next picture. Let me get it here. See, from here, all of that, it got split up. Let me just see what Diadochi means. If I look it up for Diadochi, this is an ancient Greek word that means successors. It refers to the generals of Alexander the Great who divided his empire after his death in 323 BC. All right, but you see here, okay, Diadochi, and as we said, the scriptures, Daniel 8:4, stood up for it, right? Let me go back to that picture. Let me read the scripture again, actually. It's like Daniel 8, verses 21 and 22. And the rough goat is the king of Grecia, and the great horn that is between his eyes is the first king. Now that being broken, whereas four stood up for it. Four kingdoms shall stand up out of the nation, but not in his power. So let me get, all right, this now. It says the Diadochi fought over and carved up Alexander's empire, you see? And the scripture said, what? Wherefore he called his servants such as were honorable and had been brought up with him from his youth and parted his kingdom among them while he was yet alive. All right. It says, and to, the Diadochi fought over and carved up Alexander's empire into several kingdoms after his death, a legacy which reigned on and continued the influence of ancient Greek culture abroad for over 300 more years. You got to understand that, man. A legacy which reigned on and continued the influence. This explains why you have Israelites that were, um, you know, this is why the script, you, for example, you read in the New Testament about Israelites being Greek and everything like that, you know, because they took on Greek customs, you know, it says, there's neither Jew nor Greek, you know, it's talking about Israelites in general, but those Greeks are talking about Israelites because once again, this you got to know the history to understand the mystery, as the apostles say. You have to know this background of history, how this whole Hellenistic period and everything uh, became about and began, etc., which we're gonna get into a little more in the verses down in First Maccabees 1. All right, all of this explains why said influence of ancient Greek culture, Hellenistic period, all of that. So it says this map depicts the kingdoms of the Diadochi circa 301 BC after the battle. It's the five kingdoms of Diadochi, but These are the main generals are Kingdom of Ptolemy the First Soter, Kingdom of Cassander, Kingdom of Lysimachus, and Empire of Seleucus. Okay, so Ptolemy is the blue, King Cassander is the green, Lysimachus is the orange, Seleucus is the yellow. Okay, and you see Seleucid Empire all in here. This is the land of Israel down here. Okay, so he parted it among his servants. You see, so the scriptures are on point. All right. And his servants bear rule everyone in his place. And I believe when you look up Alexander the Great, okay, it actually talks about how in his early life, one of his actual generals was one of his friends that were brought up with him. I forget exactly where it's at in here. I think I read something about it. Okay, right here on the education regarding his Alexander the Great education, right? It says Mietzo was like a boarding school for Alexander and the children of Macedonian nobles, such as Ptolemy, Festion, if I'm saying that right. It says, and Cassander. See, Ptolemy, we just read those names here. Theodochi, you see, Cassander, Lysimachus, Ptolemy, and Seleucus. All right, let's see what this is. All right, but it says in Cassander, look, many of these students will become his friends and future generals and are often known as the companions. And what did the scriptures say up here? First Maccabees 1:6. Wherefore he called his servants, such as were honorable, and had been brought up with him from his youth, and parted his kingdom among them while he was yet alive. You see, so the scriptures are on point. All right, these men, all right, Ptolemy and Cassander, they were part of his generals that he parted his kingdom amongst. Okay, let's continue. Um, By the way, he was taught by Aristotle. See, Aristotle taught Alexander and his companions about medicine, philosophy, morals, religion, logic, and art. All right, so let's continue. First Maccabees chapter 1. This is the history of Christianity that doesn't understand. They don't read the Apocrypha, so therefore they don't understand those Greeks that believed, all right, and repented in the New Testament. Okay, and that Apostle Paul was writing to. They don't understand that. They don't understand the Gentiles. Okay, but let's continue. So First Maccabees 1:8, and his servants bear rule everyone in his place. Verse 9, and after his death, they all put crowns upon themselves. So did their sons after them many years. And evils were multiplied in the earth. Now, why would evils be multiplied in the earth? And why when they got a rulership, evils will be multiplied in the earth? Because they are Edomites, all right, so-called white men, all right. And the scriptures say what? This is the book of Malachi, chapter 1 and verse 4. What do the scriptures call Edom? It's Malachi chapter 1 and verse 4. Whereas Edom saith, we are impoverished, but we will return and build the desolate places. All right, but you see, he's talking about who? Edom. It says, thus saith Yahweh of hosts, they shall build, but I will throw down. Here's the point. And they shall call them the border of wickedness. All right. So the so-called white man, all right, is the wicked according to the Bible. All right. And why? Well, let's get a precept. This is the book of Proverbs, chapter 4, verse 16. It says, for they sleep not except they have done mischief, and their sleep is taken away unless they cause them to fall. So their wickedness is within them, man. Wickedness is a part of the so-called white man. All right. That's who the Lord created them to be. Just like, the Lord made his made just like the Lord made Jake, all right, to be his chosen people. This is the people. He made Esau to be the wicked. Yeah, cool. Yeah, now yes, you have wicked Israelites, but the wicked is talking about the so-called white man, and this is why, and because wickedness is within them, and this is why when you know, Alexander the Great's generals were in power, it says evils are multiplied in the earth. Okay, because they're Edomites. Just like today, you got the elites, in rulership. All right, and look at the earth today. The scriptures say this is. Let me get this real quick. This is the book of Proverbs, chapter 29, and verse 2. And it says, when the righteous are in authority, the people rejoice. But when the wicked beareth rule, the people mourn. You see? So when the wicked bear rule, the people mourn. So continuing on. First Maccabees 1 and 10. And there came out of them a wicked root, Antiochus, surnamed Epiphanes, son of Antiochus the king. Now says, and there came out of them a wicked root. So meaning out of one of these four generals, all right, came Antiochus Epiphanes, all right, and he had a father named Antiochus, and I'm gonna show you, all right, show you. Let's see which one he came out of. Now, specifically, he came out of the Seleucid Empire, and you see, Seleucid Empire is this yellow region. Okay, so now let's look up Seleucus. Okay, so I'm gonna read about him. All right. Actually, you know what? Yeah, let me read this first paragraph. It says Seleucus the first Nicator, Seleucus the Victorious, was a Macedonian Greek general, officer, and successor of Alexander the Great, who went on to found the eponymous, like if I'm saying that wrong, Seleucid Empire. All right. It says, led by the Seleucid dynasty, initially a secondary player in the power struggles following Alexander's death. Seleucus rose to become a total ruler of Asia, Asia Minor, Syria, Mesopotamia, and the Iranian plateau, assuming the title of Basileus, meaning king. The Seleucid Empire was one of the major powers of the Hellenistic world. And if you don't know, all right, what Hellenism is, that's an important word to understand. Hellenism definition says Hellenism is the national character or culture of Greece, especially ancient Greece, but the study or imitation of ancient Greek culture. Let me see. I might just look it up on let me just see if I can pull it up here. All right. Let me just let me type it in because I wanted to actually pull up Hellenism. Okay, here we go. Hellenism. Wait. Fuck. Let me type. Let me see if I can find something. Let me see if it's as they mean Hellenistic period. All right. Now it says here in classical antiquity, the Hellenistic period covers the time in Greek history after classical Greece between the death of Alexander the Great and the death of Cleopatra the Seventh in 30 BC, which was followed by the ascendancy of the Roman Empire, as signified by the Battle of Actium, right, etc., etc. Says its name stems from the ancient Greek word Hellas, which was gradually recognized as the name for Greece, from which the early modern 19th century historiographical term Hellenistic was derived. The term Hellenistic is to be distinguished from Hellenic in that the latter refers to Greece itself, while the former encompasses all the ancient territories of the period that come under significant Greek influence. Hold on. So while the former, talking about Hellenistic, encompasses all the ancient territories of the period that had come under significant Greek influence, particularly the Hellenized Middle East after the conquests of Alexander the Great. So Hellenism, all right, being Hellenized is adopting Greek culture. All right, pretty much, and it was, and the thing is, you're gonna read that it was forced on our people. Okay, it was literally forced on our people. Some joined voluntarily, all right, but it was forced upon our people to become this, you know, to become Hellenized and take on Greek ways. All right, but I won't jump the gun too much. Okay, uh, let me just see if it has a straightforward definition on here. Let's see. Type in, what is Hellenism? Hellenism. This is on National Hellenic Museum, and it says, "What is Hellenism?" All right. It says, it may surprise you that Greeks don't call themselves Greek. Instead, Greeks refer to themselves as Hellenes. The word Greek comes from the Latin uh, Gracie, and through Roman influence has become a common root of the word for Greek people in culture in most languages. In English, however, both Greek and Hellenic are used. When most English speakers say Greek today, they mean the people and culture associated with the modern nation state of Greece. Hellenism, however, is something bigger. From ancient times, the language, culture, and values of the Hellenes has significantly impacted the world. All right. It says, throughout history, non-Hellenic people have adopted. See, look, throughout history, non-Hellenic people have adopted and assimilated the values and aesthetics of the Hellenes. Through this contact, the culture of the Hellenes has not only transformed other cultures, but has transformed itself. This relationship is Hellenism. In fact, an openness to new ideas and embracing beauty and truth that we find it a fundamental feature of Hellenism. In short, look, here's a point. In short, Hellenism is rooted in the history of the Greek people, but it is bigger than Greek culture. It is part of humanity's shared heritage. But pretty much is adopting Greek culture. I wish I had my you can look up in the Zondervan Compact Bible Dictionary what Hellenism is, all right? At a point, okay, going back. All right, I know, I hope you're not getting lost here, okay? But it's a reason, what this it's a reason, I'm going into this, okay? To understand more of that background, more of that history, to understand the mystery. And this is all, part of the story still, we'll get into more about Hanukkah, Lord willing. I would such a solution. Let me just shoot the time frame on this. All right. Getting back. Making sure everything. All right. Getting back. Okay. Solutions to first. Okay, so I'm reading it here. The Seleucid Empire was one of the major powers of the Hellenistic world until it was overcome by the Roman Republic and Parthian Empire in the late second and early first centuries BC. And not gonna go into it, but as we read in Daniel 7, the next empire that came after the Greek Empire was the Roman Empire, which is in verse 7. All right. But continuing on, right? So once again, first Maccabees 1, all right, it says, and there came out of them a wicked root. So out of who? Out of one of those four generals that Alexander the Great divided his empire from, and the four generals this wicked root came out of was Seleucus. Okay, this guy over here. All right, and it said, um, the Seleucid Empire was one of the major powers of the Hellenistic world. All right, so he had a lot to do with its Hellenism. But let's go down to where it says issue here. All right, it says in genealogy and wills, a person's issue means all their lineal descendants. All right, so now let's go here. Antiochus the first Soter. All right. Um. All right, and after him was Antiochus, so which is this guy. So this is Antiochus the first Soter. Right after him was Antiochus the second Theos. All right, this guy. All right, it's like here. I have to pull it up. And after him, let's see which one next. I think maybe Seleucus the second. Okay. All right. Yep. So after we're just tracking where that wicked root came from. So Antiochus, and slocking for the background noise. We're just tracking that where that wicked root um came from. We're just tracking the line down from Seleucus, right? So after Antiochus the second Theos is Seleucus the second Callinicus, from saying that right, and one of his descendants were Antiochus the third the Great. And this, all right, this is the wait, Salakia. Uh wait, no. Let me just make sure. Bear with me just 1 second. I'm just trying to make sure of something here. All right. Yep. Okay. So yeah, this is the guy, right? This is Antiochus the third, the Great, right? And he had a son. Okay. This is still from that. This is still that line. That This is still that seed line of solution, right? And he had a son, which is Antiochus the fourth Epiphanes, or Antiochus Epiphanes the fourth. This guy. Okay. Him. All right. It says Antiochus Epiphanes the fourth was a Greek Hellenistic king who ruled the Seleucid Empire. See, we understand this. This is why, we went through this to understand it. It says who ruled the Seleucid Empire from 175 BC until his death in 164 BC, right? It says he was a son of King Antiochus III the Great. And that's once again this guy right here that we just looked at. So when we read the scriptures, First Maccabees 1 and 10, and there came out of them Seleucus, right? We just tracked. It says a wicked root. We just tracked that whole C line, or that or it's like that specific um descendant line. All right. It says, and there came out of them a wicked root Antiochus, surnamed Epiphanes, which is once again Antiochus Epiphanes the fourth, son of Antiochus the king. This is Antiochus the king, and the one we just saw. This is Antiochus Epiphanes the fourth. All right. It says, so now you understand. It says, who had been hostage at Rome, and he reigned in the 137th year of the kingdom of the Greeks. All right. And this man is a devil, man. Wicked ass devil. And we're going to see him again in the kingdom. All right. The Edomite. But you see, let's continue reading a little bit about him. It says, originally named Mithridates, or possibly earlier its alternative form of Mithridates, he assumed the name Antiochus, either after the death of his elder brother, Antiochus, or when he ascended the throne. Notable events during Antiochus's reign include his near conquest of Ptolemaic Egypt, his persecution of the Jews of Judea and Samaria, and the rebellion of the Jewish Maccabees. And that's what we're about to get in a part of that. Okay. So this is the background to it. All right. And it said this specific is a bust of Antiochus IV at the Altes Museum in Berlin, Germany. All right. So continuing on. First Maccabees 1:11. And once again, he was, by the way, they say he was a Hellenistic king. That whole Hellenism thing, all right, is pretty much forcing pretty much putting Greek culture upon other peoples. That's what Hellenism really is. Okay. And he did that to Jake, to Israel, to us Israelites, right? So first Maccabees 1, starting in verse 11, right? It says, in those days went there out of Israel wicked men, who persuaded many, saying, let us go and make a covenant with the heathen that are round about us. For since we departed from them, we have had much sorrow. All right. So you had, and that covenant means an agreement. So you had wicked men, all right, and said, come on, pretty much say, let's go, let's make an agreement with the heathen that are round about us. All right. Because now, since we departed from them, we had much sorrow. Verse 12. So this device, meaning plan, pleased them well. Verse 13. Listen closely now, says, then certain of the people were so forward herein that they went to the king, who gave them license to do after the ordinances of the heathen. See, so they went to the king, who gave them license to do after the ordinances of the heathen. So this is Jake going to the king, who allowed them to copy ways of the heathen. All right. And then it continues. See, colon continues, says, whereupon they built a place of exercise at Jerusalem, according to the customs of the heathen, and made themselves uncircumcised, and forsook the holy covenant, and joined themselves to the heathen, and were sold to do mischief. All right, now I got a note in our scriptures. It says, wicked Israelites voluntarily joined and did the customs of the Greeks. Here is when Jake began to get into the Greek culture, aka become Hellenized. This is the history of the Greeks that believed in the New Testament. All right, this is where it starts from. All right, it says these Israelites here joined to the ways of the Greeks. All right, so they fell away from their true customs as an Israelite. As you see, it says they made themselves uncircumcised and forsook the holy covenant and joined themselves to the heathen and were sold to do mischief. All right, so notice, so they fell away from their true customs as an Israelite. So now you have to think, right? So think, right? They teach their children, who naturally be Israelites, Greek customs, and continuing the cycle generation after generation. All right. So years on down the line, those Israelites who grew up in Greek cultures, all right, or Greek culture, they would think that they're Greeks themselves, even though they're actually Israelites. And this explains the Greeks believing in the New Testament. Okay, this is where it stems from. All right, this is where it began. For example, when we read in the New Testament, right, Jew nor Greek. This is Galatians chapter 3, verse 28. It says, there is neither Jew nor Greek, there's neither bond nor free, there's neither male nor female, for you're all one in the Mashiach Yahweh Shai. Right? Let me just see what it says for Greek here. Sometimes we gotta go off, you gotta know, all right, when it's going off. Okay, here it says Helen, but I don't think this is the right definition. No. Because once again, out of all the nations, right, the truth is for Israel. Okay, the truth is for Israelites. All right, it's not for any other nation. Okay, however, so there's neither Jew nor Greek. All right, and those Greeks that believe they're Israelites, so it's not like they're another nation. They're not literally Greeks. Okay, but they're Israelites taking on Greek culture. Let me just see. I'll find it. I think it's Acts the 16th chapter. Yeah, Acts 16, right, and 1. So it says the Macedonian vision. It says, then came he to Derbe and Lystra, and behold, a certain disciple was there named Timotheus, the son of a certain woman, which was a Jewess, and believed, but his father was a Greek. Now, if I go to this word Greek here, all right, wait, so like, I'm trying to find the correct one because it's a certain definition. I believe it's Hellenistes, all right. No, it wasn't it. But that doesn't that just because the definition says that doesn't mean that those were actually literal, Greeks. All right. You know, that's still an Israelite, okay? Because we know the background of it. But you have to understand when when the scripture can be talking about a literal Greek, a literal, actual like, Edomite Greek versus an Israelite that took on heathen ways and customs. Now, let me see. Maybe it's in this one. Oh, it's a certain just gotta find it. Bear with me 1 second. It's a certain definition. Hellenistes. You know what? Let me try to look it up. All right. So let me try to type it in. Okay, you know it's right here. Blue Letter Bible. Strong's G 1675, right? And then I'm gonna click, it says Hellenistes, right? Hellenistes. And I'm gonna click, I'm gonna read the definition, but before I read it, I'm gonna go down afterwards and show the different scriptures, all right, on where it'll use it. Okay. But it says a Hellenist, and it says one. Then look, but it says one who imitates. One who imitates. If you imitate something, does that mean that you're actually the thing you're imitating? No, that means that you're copying. Okay, and we know the history of it, which was what back here in First Maccabees 1. All right, but it says one who imitates the manners and customs or the worship of the Greeks and use the Greek tongue. Look, used in the New Testament of Jews born in foreign lands and speaking Greek. Okay, doesn't mean that they were actually Greeks themselves. Look, Strong's definition: Hellenistes from a derivative of Strong's G 6072, a Hellenist or Greek speaking Jew. Okay, so you see, Greek speaking Jew. All right. And this is once again is why we went to the whole thing about Seleucus, and Alexander the Great bringing in that Hellenist period, because you have to understand that there was you know, that Greek influence and culture, all right, was spread, okay, you know, and we read where it started, okay, and we read how it got to Jake, how Jake was Hellenized. Let me go down to the different scriptures we're using. Okay, Acts 6:1. You see, now it says here, and in those days, when the number of the disciples was multiplied, there rose a murmuring of the Grecians. See, and it uses the same number. All right, they use the same Strong's number. All right, for this word Hellenistes. All right, here it says against the Hebrews because their widows were neglected in the daily ministration. Acts 9:29. And he spake boldly in the name of the Lord Yahushai and disputed against the Grecians, but they went about to slay him. Once again, he uses the same number here, verse Acts 11:20. And some of them were men of Cyprus and Cyrene, which when they were come to Antioch spake unto the Grecians, preaching the Lord Yahushai. Okay, so knowing this, and knowing this background, when you read in the New Testament about the when you read in the New Testament about Greeks believing, all right, and the word being taught to them, is talking about Israelites, man, that took on Greek cultures and ways, okay? Not literally talking about another nation, all right? Look, this is the book of Acts, chapter 10, 36. It says, the word which Yahweh sent unto the children of Israel, that's a nation, preaching peace by Yahweh Shah HaMashiach, he is Lord of all right? So, let me get another one. Romans 10. This is the history Christians don't understand. All right, Romans chapter 10, verse 12, it says, for there is no difference between the Jew and the Greek, and we understand this now. For the same Lord over all is rich unto all that call upon him. All right. So this history is where it stems from. Now continuing on, right? First Maccabees 1 and 16. Now when the kingdom was established before Antiochus, he thought to reign over Egypt that he might have the domain of two realms. Wherefore he entered into Egypt with a great multitude, with chariots and of elephants and horsemen and a great navy. All right. And wait 1 second. So he wanted, domain of two realms. So he came into Egypt with all this, right? It says, and made war against Ptolemy, king of Egypt, but Ptolemy was afraid of him and fled, and many were wounded to death. Thus they got the strong cities in the land of Egypt, and he took the spoils thereof. Verse 20. And after that Antiochus had smitten Egypt, he returned again in the 143rd year. So the 143rd year, and went up against Israel and Jerusalem with a great multitude. All right. Um, wait 1 second. All right. So it says, verse 21. So now he coming up against Jake, right? Verse 21, and entered proudly into the sanctuary and took away the golden altar and the candlestick of light, talking about the menorah. All right. And it was a little Hebrew lesson. All right, let's just look up how to say menorah in Hebrew. It's Exodus 25 and 31. All right. And it says, and thou shalt make a candlestick of pure gold, of beaten work shall the candlestick be made. His shaft and his branches, his bowls, his knops, and all his and his flowers shall be the same. And 6 branches shall come out of the sides of it. 3 branches out of the candlestick out of the one side, and 3 branches of the candlestick out of the other side. All right. But the point is, the term candlestick in the Hebrew is manawara. All right. That's where you get the term menorah from. All right. Which is that menorah, right? Which is this. Okay. But it says, a lampstand. Just as a quick, little Hebrew lesson. It says lampstand. Sometimes referred to a candlestick because you would light it. All right. But going back, First Maccabees 1. So he came up against Jake, all right, and went into the sanctuary, took away the golden altar and the candlestick of light and all the vessels thereof, and the table of the showbread and the pouring vessels, and the vials and the censers of gold, and the veil and the crown and the golden ornaments that were before the temple, all which he pulled off. Verse 23, he took also the silver and the gold and the precious vessels. Also he took the hidden treasures which he found. And when he had taken all away, he went into his own land, having made a great massacre and spoken very proudly. Right? So he came and, caused hell on Jake. All right. Verse 25, it says, therefore was there a great mourning in Israel in every place where they were. And this is why I said this man Antiochus Epiphanes, his persecution of the Jews of Judea and Samaria. All right. And then the rebellion of the Jewish Maccabees. All right. Okay. He's also known as the Maccabean Revolt, which we'll get into a little bit. All right. Later on. But it says, First Maccabees 1:25. Again, therefore there was a great mourning in Israel, in every place where they were, so that the princes and elders mourned, the virgins and young men were made feeble, and the beauty of women was changed. Every bridegroom took up lamentation, and she that sat in the marriage chamber was in heaviness. The land also was moved for the inhabitants thereof, and all the house of Jacob was covered with confusion. And after 2 years fully expired, the king sent his chief collector of tribute unto the cities of Judah, who came unto Jerusalem. So he calls hell, right? So now, after 2 years fully expired, the king sent his chief collector of tribute unto the cities of Judah. So the king sent his collector of tribute unto these different Judite cities. It says who came unto Jerusalem with a great multitude. So he came with a big old multitude of people, right? Verse 30 now says, and spake peaceable words unto them, but all was deceit. So he lied to them. All right. For when they had given him credence, which credence means belief in or acceptance of something is true. All right. So once, Jake believed this man, says he fell suddenly upon the city and smote it very sore and destroyed much people of Israel. See? Verse 31, and when he had taken the spoils of the city, he set it on fire. So he came, you know, so the king sent his chief collector. All right, he came and spoke peaceable words. He lied to Israel. All right. He spoke peaceable words to him, but to Jake. But once they believed, once they had believed him, you know, he pretty much, um showed the deceitful part and start, killing Jake and everything. All right. Said destroying him. All right, verse 31 it says, and when he had taken the spoils of the city, he set it on fire and pulled down the houses and walls thereof on every side. All right, so he took spoils, set it on fire, etc. Verse 32, but the women and children took they captive and possessed the cattle. Then builded they the city of David with a great, so the women and children they took captive and possessed cattle, just the cattle, right? Verse 33, then builded they the city of David with a great and strong wall, and with mighty towers, and made it a stronghold for them. Verse 34, and they put therein a sinful nation, wicked men, and fortified themselves therein. They stored it also with armor and victuals, and when they had gathered together the spoils of Jerusalem, they laid them up there, and so they became a sore snare. For it was a place to lie in wait against a sanctuary and an evil adversary to Israel. Verse 37, thus they shed innocent blood on every side of the sanctuary and defiled it. All right, it says, insomuch that the inhabitants of Jerusalem fled because of them. Whereupon the city was made an habitation of strangers, and became strange to those that were born in her, and her own children left her. Verse 39, her sanctuary was laid waste like a wilderness. Her feasts were turned in the morning, her Sabbaths into reproach, her honor into contempt. As had been her glory, so was her dishonor increased, and her excellency was turned in the morning. All right. So now, moving on, verse 41, it says, moreover, King Antiochus wrote to his whole kingdom that all should be one people, and every one should leave his laws. So all the heathen agreed according to the commandment of the king. So here, Antiochus Epiphanes IV, he's writing, all right, that everyone should leave their laws. Okay, okay, and uh, just like a mirror 1 second. But then it's gonna go into Jake, right? First Maccabees 1:43. Referred to against, and everyone should leave his laws. So all the heathen agreed according to the commandment of the king. Verse 43. Yea, many of also the Israelites consented to his religion and sacrificed unto idols and profaned the Sabbath. For the king had sent letters by messengers unto Jerusalem and the cities of Judah that they should follow the strange laws of the land. So now it going into Jake, you know, Verse 45, and forbid burnt offerings and sacrifice and drink offerings in the temple, that they should profane the Sabbaths and festival days, and pollute the sanctuary and holy people. These is the so-called white man. So ever since the ancient world, the so-called white man has been plaguing us Israelites. Right? Verse 47. Then they call themselves Greeks, but it's really just they call themselves Greek, Roman. It's just the same people going under different names, man. Like today they call themselves American, English, British, German, Russian, you know, just Edomites, same people, just under different names, you know. So continuing on, it says, verse 47, set up altars and groves and chapels of idols, and set and sacrifice swine's flesh and unclean beasts. It says that they should also leave their children uncircumcised and make their souls abominable with all manner of uncleanness and profanation, to the end they might forget the law and change all the ordinances. It says, and whosoever would not do according to the commandment of the king, he said he should die. So if you didn't, so pretty much Antiochus wrote that you got to do all that, He wrote to Jake, you have to do all of that, and if you don't agree, you're going to get put to death, right? It says in the self same manner wrote he to his whole kingdom and appointed overseers over all the people, commanding the cities of Judah to sacrifice city by city by city. All right, verse 52. That many of the people were gathered unto them, to wit, everyone that forsook the law, and so they committed evils in the land, and drove the Israelites into secret places, even wheresoever they could flee for succor, meaning help. Now, the 15th day of the month Caslu, listen to this closely. And now, in the 15th day of the month Caslu, in the 145th year, they set up the abomination of desolation upon the altar and builded idol altars throughout the cities of Judah on every side. Right? No, wait 1 second. Um, wait 1 second. I'm just looking through something. Bear with me just 1 second here. Um, it's like you could just skip ahead to where I'm speaking. I'm just looking at something real quick. Michael Shaw, bear with me. All right. So I'm gonna read it again. First Maccabees chapter 1, verse 54. Now the 15th day of the month Caslu, in the 145th year, they set up the abomination of desolation upon the altar and builded idol altars throughout the cities of Judah on every side, and burnt, verse 55, and burnt incense at the doors of their houses and in the streets. And when they had rent in pieces the books of the law, which they found, they burnt them with fire. So here, they on this, so they doing all of this, right? Burnt incense at the doors of the houses and the streets, tore to pieces of the books of the law, which they found. They burned them with fire. Verse 57, and whosoever was found it's like whosoever was found with any of the book of the testament, or if any committed to the law, the king's commandment was that they should put him to death. Verse 58, thus did they by their authority unto the Israelites every month, to as many as were found in the cities. It says now, verse 59, right? It says, now the 25th day of the month, they did sacrifice upon the idol altar, which was upon the altar of the Most High. And this is Caslu, all right? You know, it's Caslu, what it's talking about here. All right, you got to pay attention to that date because when you read about the dedication later on, all right, talk about the 5 and 20th day of the month. All right, now, verse 60 says, at which time, according to the commandment, they put to death certain women that had caused their children to be circumcised because they said you can't. All right, but you had, strong women back then that was saying, you know what, we don't care, we're going to still follow the law. Verse 61. All right, it says, and they hanged the infants about their necks and rifled their houses and slew them that had circumcised them. Howbeit, many we gotta have now this part right here. We gotta have the same attitude, all right, regarding the MOTB. Howbeit, many in Israel were fully resolved and confirmed in themselves not to eat any unclean thing. But in this day and age, now we got to be fully resolved and confirmed in ourselves not to take the MOTB because now your salvation is on the line. Now your salvation is on the line. Because we all know if you take the MOTB, you will not receive repentance. Okay. But verse 63. So he says, wherefore the rather to die, that they might not be defiled with meats, and that they might not profane the holy covenant, so then they died. So they'd rather die. You see, we got out of the same spirit. It comes down to it. Hey, so be it. All right, so be it. It comes down to it. All right. Verse 64, and there was very great wrath upon Israel. Ultimately, it was from the Lord, because the Lord is the one that sends the wrath. All right. First Maccabees chapter 2 now. Okay, so we got some background on what happened. Okay, etc. Now, moving on to chapter 2. This will be the final chapter, Lord willing, before the second part. All right. It says, in those days arose Mattathias, the son of John. In those days, this was happening. Arose Mattathias, the son of John, the son of Simeon. All right, a priest of the sons of Joarib from Jerusalem and dwelt in Modin. And he had 5 sons, Johanan called Caddis, Simon called Thasi, Judas who was called Maccabees, and Eleazar called Avaron, and Jonathan whose surname was Apha. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So these are the Maccabees brothers. All right. So it says, verse 6, and when he saw the blasphemies that were committed in Judah and Jerusalem, to my Mattathias, when he saw those things committed that was being done there, he said, woe was me. Wherefore was I born to see this misery of my people and of the holy city and to dwell there, when it was delivered into the hand of the enemy and the sanctuary into the hand of strangers? Her temple is become as a man without glory. Her glorious vessels are carried away into captivity. Her Salakia, her infants are slain in the streets. Her young men with the sword of the enemy. What nation hath not had a part in her kingdom and gotten of her spoils? All her ornaments are taken away. Of a free woman she has become a bondslave. And behold, our sanctuary, even our beauty and our glory is laid waste, and the Gentiles have profaned it. To what end, therefore, shall we live any longer? So we, mourning everything that's going on. Verse 14. The Mattathias and the sons rent their clothes and put on sackcloth and mourn very sore. In the meanwhile, the king's officers, such as compelled the people to revolt, came into the city Modin to make them sacrifice. And when many of Israel came unto them, Mattathias also, Salakia, read up again from that. Salakia. 1 second. Verse 15. It says, in the meanwhile, the king's officers, such as compelled the people to revolt, came into the city Modin to make them sacrifice. So now they're coming in to make the people sacrifice. It says, verse 16, and when many of Israel came unto them, Mattathias also and the sons came together. So everybody's grouping up now, right? They all coming together. Verse 17, then answered the king's officers and said to Mattathias on this wise, thou art a ruler, an honorable and great man in this city, and strengthened with sons and brethren. Now therefore come thou first and fulfill the king's commandment, like as all the heathen have done. Yea, and the men of Judah, and such as remain at Jerusalem, so shalt thou and thy house be in the number of the king's friends, and thou and thy children shall be honored with silver and gold and many rewards. You see, so they like telling Mattathias, like, all right, listen, come on, you know, um, listen to the king's commandment. You a great honorable ruler and everything. You have sons and brethren, you know, so do this, and you're gonna receive rewards. You're gonna be one of the king's friends, right? However, verse 19, then Mattathias answered and spake with a loud voice, though all the nations that are under the king's dominion obey him, and fall away every one from the religion of their fathers, and give consent to his commandments. Yet will I and my sons and my brethren walk in the covenant of our fathers. God forbid that we should forsake the law and the ordinances. We will not hearken to the king's words to go from our religion, either on the right hand or on the left. And that's the thing. And once again, in these times, regardless of all these people, this is just what it reminds me of. It makes me think of all these people, you know, taking MOTB and everything, because it's going to be made mandatory. As scriptures say, this is the book of Exodus, chapter 23, and verse 2. Let me see. Can I get it in another version? Otherwise, that. All right, Exodus 23 and 2. It says, thou shalt not follow a multitude to do evil. So you're not supposed to follow a multitude of people to do something wicked. Okay? If everybody's doing it and it's wicked, you're not supposed to follow a multitude of people to do that. You know? But it says furthermore, right? So I mean, so they were following that law as well. Okay. Verse 22 says, we will not hearken to I read that. Verse 23. Now when he had left speaking these words, there came one of the Jews in the sight of all to sacrifice on the altar which was at Modin, according to the king's commandments. So one of the Jews came in, right, and sacrificed on the altar. Okay. Trying to listen to the commandment Antiochus Epiphanes put out, right? Now, verse 24, which thing when Mattathias saw, he was aflame with zeal, and his reins trembled, neither could he forbear to show his anger according to judgments, meaning he saw this Jew coming to do that, and he couldn't hold himself back. He was mad, man. He got pissed. He was mad. It says, wherefore he ran and slew him upon the altar. Verse 25, and also the king's commissioner who compelled men to sacrifice, he killed at that time, and the altar he pulled down. So the king's commissioner, so he not only killed this Jew, but he killed the commissioner as well that was trying to get everybody to sacrifice. So it says he killed at that time, and the altar he pulled down. Thus dealt he zealously for the law of Yahweh, like as Phineas did unto Zambri the son of Salom. And Mattathias cried throughout the city with a loud voice, saying, whosoever is zealous of the law and maintaineth the covenant, let him follow me. So he and his sons fled into the mountains and left all that ever they had in the city. Then many that sought after justice and judgment went down into the wilderness to dwell there. All right. So now he's saying, um, pretty much those that's, zealous and, want to still follow, pretty much, follow the Lord, ultimately follow the Lord. All right. Follow him. All right. So everybody, ran down to the wilderness to dwell there, both they and their children and their wives and their cattle, because afflictions increased sore upon them. Now, when it was told the king's servants and the host that was at Jerusalem in the city of David that certain men who had broken the king's commandment were going down to the secret places in the wilderness, they pursued after them a great number, and having overtaken them, they camped against them and made war against them on the Sabbath day. And they said unto them, let that which ye have done hitherto suffice. Come forth and do according to the commandment of the king, and ye shall live. But they said, we will not come forth, neither will we do the king's commandment to profane the Sabbath day. So then they gave the battle with all speed. Howbeit they answered them not, neither cast they a stone at them, nor stopped the places where they lay hid. All right, 1 second. but said, let us die all in our innocency. Heaven and earth will testify for us that you put us to death wrongfully. So they rose up against them and battled on the Sabbath, and they slew them with their wives and children and their cattle to the number of 1,000 people. Now when Mattathias and his friends understood hereof, they mourned for them right sore. And one of them said to another, if we all do as our brethren have done, and fight not for our lives and laws against the heathen, they will now quickly root us out of the earth. At that time, therefore, they decreed, saying, whosoever shall come to make battle with us on the Sabbath day, we will fight against him. Neither will we die all, as our brethren that were murdered in the secret places. Then came there unto him a company of Assyrians, who were mighty men of Israel, even all such as were voluntarily devoted unto the Lord. This is our history. This is all a part of history I'm reading. Okay? This is all a part of our history that I'm reading here. All right? It's not those fake Jews in the land. That's not their history. Verse 43 says, also all they that fled for persecution joined themselves unto them, and were a stay unto them. So they joined their forces and smote sinful men in their anger, and wicked men in their wrath, but the rest fled to the heathen for succor, meaning help. The Mattathias and his friends went round about and pulled down the altars, and what children soever they found within the coast of Israel uncircumcised, those they circumcised valiantly. So the Lord is, the one behind the scenes making all of this work. All right, He's the one that, you know, is a, is banding them together. Okay. Verse 47, it says, they pursued also after the proud men, and the work prospered in their hands. So they recovered the law out of the hand of the Gentiles and out of the hand of kings, neither suffered they the sin of the triumph. Now when the time drew near that Mattathias should die, he said unto his sons. So now Mattathias is about to pass away, but he's he's saying something to his sons now, right? It says, now hath pride and rebuke gotten strength, and the time of destruction and the wrath of indignation. Now therefore, my sons, be ye zealous for the law, and give your lives for the covenant of your fathers. Call to remembrance what acts our fathers did in their time. So shall you receive great honor and an everlasting name. And then he, recalls it. Okay, he recalls different acts and these are our forefathers. You got people, saying Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and whatever, and are their forefathers. Different famous men of Israel. All right. However, these are actually forefathers of us so-called blacks, Hispanics, Native Americans. All right. It says, was not Abraham found faithful in temptation, and it was imputed unto him for righteousness? Joseph, in the time of his distress, kept the commandment and was made Lord of Egypt. Phineas, our father, in being zealous and fervent, obtained the covenant of an everlasting priesthood. Yahweh, or Joshua, I believe, fulfilling the word, was made a judge in Israel. But, it says Jesus here. It says Caleb, for bearing witness before the congregation, received the heritage of the land. It says David, and I believe that is talking about Joshua. All right. Um, it's like if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure it is. All right, but it says in verse 57, David, for being merciful, possessed the throne of an everlasting kingdom. Elias, meaning Elijah, for being zealous and fervent for the law, was taken up into heaven. Ananias, Azarias, and Mishael, by believing, were saved out of the flame. The three men in the fiery flame. Daniel, for his innocency, was delivered from the mouth of lions. And check this out. Look, verse 61. And thus consider ye throughout all ages that none that put their trust in him, and who? In Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shai, shall be overcome. So the Lord is always going to be with his man. Always. Verse 62. Fear not then the words of a sinful man, for his glory shall be dung and worms. All right, it says, today, verse 63, today he shall be lifted up, and tomorrow he shall not be found, because he is returned into his dust, and his thought is coming nothing. Wherefore, ye, my sons, be valiant, and show yourselves men in the behalf of the law, for by it ye shall obtain glory. All right, it says, and behold, I know that your brother Simon is a man of counsel. So he's encouraging them. All right, he's encouraging his sons. Okay, you know. The thing is, nowadays we have to be valiant, man, especially in the times to come. You know, we've got to hold on to this faith, be strong. 65, it says, "And behold, I know that your brother Simon is the man of counsel. Give ear unto him always. He shall be a father unto you." Right? It says, "And as for Judas Maccabees, he hath been mighty and strong, even from his youth up. Let him be your captain and fight the battle of the people." All right. It says, "Take also unto you all those that observe the law, and avenge ye the wrong of your people. Recompense fully the heathen, and take heed to the commandments of the law." So he blessed them and was gathered to his fathers, and he died in the 146th year. And his sons buried him in the sepulchres of his fathers at Modin, and all Israel made a great lamentation for him. All right. And that concludes First Maccabees chapters 1 and 2. And Lord willing, I'll do the next part tomorrow, Lord willing. Or if not tomorrow, some other time throughout this holy day, our holy day that's going on. So with that, giving all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Kakodash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, every well. Peace, blessings, and salutations to the elect. Shalom to the elect.